If you think we're in for a normal run-of-the-mill Yowie sighting, you're sorely mistaken. Just when we think we've heard it all, a witness throws us another curveball. We begin with the Wallabadah manuscript of 1903. It's written by William Telfer. It's a poorly written manuscript, but it's a goldmine in terms of information of the 1800s in New South Wales. It covers the explorers, explorations, their hardships, plus interactions in historic dialect with the Aboriginals and the elders of the time. The manuscript also talks about John Oxley. Most of us have heard the name Oxley from towns, electorates, creeks, roads, hospitals. Oxley's remarkable achievements were cut short when at just 42 years old, he succumbed from his injuries from expeditions. They caught up with him after a while. He got pretty banged up out there. And he sustained a lot of wounds. He was probably a lot worse than what he realised. And for somebody who visits the emergency ward probably 2 or 3 times a year, I can relate. In the manuscript, an old Bungari elder from Gunnedah speaks of the Yahoo or Yowie. He describes them as a hairy man but like a monkey. He says, plenty at one time, not many now. Now that's interesting considering the vast amount of reported sightings in modern times. Imagine what our lives would look like if we had the plenty of one time still roaming the bush today. Our culture and daily life would look very different. In fact, for a lot of witnesses, life is already very different. The elder went on to say that the blacks would fight with the Yahoos and win, but the Yahoos nearly always escaped because they were faster runners. And then comes one of my favourite quotes from the manuscript that I've used for decades. He, very strong fellow, but very stupid. And yes, they do make mistakes. They do some pretty ordinary mistakes, such as running out in front of cars in the dead of the night on a quiet rural road. Now you'd think they'd hear the vehicle before it arrived. And you can also see the headlights at distance. I think that's a mix of both complacency and by design. The elder said the Yahoos were the original inhabitants of this country, the old race of blacks. He said the original race looked like monkeys and had a tail, which echoes Darwin's theory.
Now, while there's no consistent modern-day reports describing tales, in May of 1954, 3 boys near Booie, Queensland, claimed they came face to face with an upright, hair-covered creature that emerged growling from a cave and chased the boys. The hair was described as a dull grey, and it had a tail that reached the ground. Soon after, somehow, the story broke the internet, appearing in newspapers across the country. Despite a vast array of expert journalists reporting on the sighting, not one of them interviewed the boys directly, and no further detail regarding the description was ever gained. Shooting parties were formed, and despite best efforts, the creature was never found. The boys were mocked, and the usual cynics wrote it off as outback country boys not knowing what a kangaroo looks like.
Booie is just to the east of Kingaroy, right in the heart of Queensland's Yowie country. In fact, this region is among the very highest in Australian reported sightings. And interestingly, some 60 years earlier, a remarkably similar story occurred in the same district, not far away. It's here we'll meet a credible witness with an extraordinary tale to tell. As I say, welcome to Mapleton.
It was about, at least 15 or so years ago. I was out bush, went for a drive. I took the girlfriend and I had my dog along. We went for a drive out the back of Mapleton. They were decent sort of bush tracks, like bush roads, what you want to call them. And my dog was letting me know that he wanted to get out and do his business. So I pulled over in a little bit of a cutting on the road and let him out. He'd done a runner down the hill. I've been down these tracks where you're not meant to, and I've actually gone off a track and then out of a track, gone from a heavy scrub area and walked into the bush, and it was like it was a maintained garden. I sort of just wandered over there, sort of watched him, and yeah, I just saw him stop at the bottom, look into a bush. He was like pointing as such, like as dogs do, like as in looking, and then this thing crawled out on all fours. Didn't know what it was initially, and I was actually more concerned for whatever it was in relation to the dog, mainly because of the breed. It was a American Staffy sort of thing. The thing stood up, and it was pretty tall, going by the height of it in relation to my dog to its say where its knee was. It looked like it was about 7 foot plus tall, thereabouts. I was looking at it, and I was a little bit dumbfounded, didn't know what to do or say, so to speak. My dog just sat there, no wagging of the tail, nothing, just sat there, could say it looked perplexed. Then I just called my dog, and that's when this thing looked up at me. We had sort of like a bit of a eye to eye. I couldn't see its eyes, as in like eyes. And then it just casually walked off. It was white, large saucer-like circles around its eyes. I'm presuming it's for eyes, okay. Actual physical makeup of it, yeah. All I can say is it's like it had the tail, it was tall, it was slender. It was white fur. I'd say not short, but longish short, long fur. Couldn't make out the nose, mouth area. Like I said, I couldn't see its eyeballs. The black circles, well, I looked at them, but I couldn't see any glistening or glint of light or anything like that. Its hands were similar to that of a monkey. Right, so they're long hands in a sense, and long fingers. Same with the feet as well. Toes on the feet weren't as long as the fingers, if you know what I'm saying. They're still long, but not as long in a sense. Its tail was from its butt sort of area, where the tail normally comes from, down to the ground, and then out again. So I'd say most would be close to the length of its body, in a sense, or not quite the length. Circles around its eyes, so it was banded. As to whether it's stripes or stripe, I can't recall. I know there was at least one stripe, so it was actually a nice day, so I got a good look at it. 30, 40 yards, but like I said, it was a long time ago. It's something I always think about. I've told a few people about it, because it's like one of them things, you know, like people look at you. Yeah, so tall. Yeah. When I say straight up and down, I mean, if you have a look at a tall fella and they're straight up and down, that's what I mean, straight up and down. But you could see it was solid. There was no muscles protruding or anything like that. You couldn't see like if it was cut or anything like that. There's no protruding chest muscles. It was straight up and down, and it was completely white. It was fully covered in white. Yeah, I couldn't see nails, couldn't see claws of any sort. Crawled out from bushes. You're on the side of a hill and you've got a road cut into that hill. It goes down into a valley, into a gully. It was virtually in the gully at the bottom, right? And I'm looking down at it from the road. It stood up straight, as in straight as an arrow. There's no hunching, no humping. Even when it walked, it was slow when it walked. But in saying that, it could have been, like, it might have been aware of the dog, didn't want a dog chasing it. Like, yeah. There's zero expression. The head of it was virtually round, right? So no profile to go by in a sense. Like there was no ears visible. There's nothing. There's no nose. I couldn't see any mouth. It never made any noise. So it didn't growl, didn't yell or whatever. We had a face-to-face, eyeball to eyeball, so to speak. When I called my dog, it looked straight up at me. It was after that it turned around and then walked away. Like this was all, say, a matter of like, say 40 seconds. My dog, he just came run back up again, got in the car, we start driving off. I'm just trying to soak it all in. It took me like a good 5-10 minutes to even say something to my girlfriend at the time. If you had put a human head on it, you would have said it was a human. Take the tail off, put some clothes on, you'd never know, yeah, except for the head. I was being very observant. I was just eyeballing this thing. I'm thinking like, what is it? Trying to make it out, work it out. Couldn't. Stood up and then I saw the tail from top of its butt or wherever it is and straight down to its feet and then out again. dragged it along behind it. Well, if you looked at a female and said breasts, it didn't have no breasts. As soon as it hit that bush, it was gone. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't see it. From what I saw, this thing, it lives in the trees. I don't think it's a ground dweller. Looking at its hands and its feet, I'm thinking it's more monkey related. You got the general description, pretty much how I come across it, and yeah, that's it. Purely accidental, so to speak. My dog wanted to get out, go for a piss. If you go looking, I don't think you're going to find it. Been hidden this well for this long, I reckon good on it and keep hidden and etc. Yeah, it does help me now to talk about it, sort of thing. Like I said, it's keeping it all to myself. It's just like, yeah, it's hard. Like the people I've spoken to and talked to, it's not just anyone. It's people I've sort of like formed a pretty half decent sort of relationship with, in a sense. Yeah.
Reported white Yowie sightings in this region of Queensland is nothing new. Diagula National Park, Esk, Karawatha, Kilcoy, Leyburn and Mapleton, just to name a few. They even receive a mention in the 1942 Australia and New Zealand Monthly magazine. As I've said before, historical accounts are just as important as the current day. They provide knowledge and a database of information as a platform for better understanding, such as the preserved dialogue between the Aboriginal elder in the 1800s speaking of the original Yowies having a tail, or the light grey Yowie, some may say off-white, with a tail in 1954. This latest report, now documented, will become a part of the historical record. The Yowie is deeply woven into the fabric of Australian history. Early explorers were often aware of or warned about the Yowie or Yahoo. During the early 1800s, explorers human hovel were intrigued by what they referred to as a bunyip. Ernest Vivank, in his book History of Australian Explorers 1788 to 1888, shared some fascinating stories about the Yowie. The early days were perilous for explorers. John Oxley, for example, died at the age of 42 from injuries during expeditions, and Leichhardt vanished with his team in April of 1848, aged just 34. Vanvack recorded Aboriginal accounts describing 3 white men believed to be explorers, allegedly killed by Jimbras, small Yowies. Some of the Aboriginals of the time and the area believed these were the 3 last remaining men of Leichhardt's failed expedition. Today's witness said it's something that always stays with him, but he's only told a few people. This raises the question of how many other sightings of tailed Yowies occurred throughout history yet remain unreported. Documenting these encounters is vital for preserving the stories and ensuring they remain in Australian history for the future researchers long after we're gone. Thanks for listening.
I'll show you things you wouldn't believe. Wouldn't believe.